Why I called out the narcissist publicly. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lisa. To my new subscribers, thank you for subscribing and welcome. And for those who have already subscribed, welcome back. Thank you all for taking the time and attention to watch this video. So I tell it like it is in every video I create. And in this one, I'm going to tell you exactly why I called out the narcissist using his real name and video footage of him. Now, the majority of the responses I received have been positive and very supportive of what I went through. However, a few people contacted me asking me why someone who calls herself Empress of Light would expose such nasty personal details about another person. How could someone who is spiritual, call someone out like that? The answer is really plain and simple. Because he deserved it. Just because I meditate and pray doesn't mean I'm going to lay down and allow an abusive monster to walk all over me, tell horrendous lies about me, run a smear campaign on me, verbally abuse me, verbally abuse my daughter, and then also smear her name to others. Being spiritual does not equate to being weak. Being an empath doesn't mean you can't also be a warrior. You can be both, and I'm definitely both. Now, do you think that sounds kind of cocky of me? Good. I survived an abusive relationship. I survived living with and being married to a toxic man who made it his mission in life to tear me down, to destroy my self-esteem, shatter my confidence. So if I come off a bit cocky, well, I earned it. Now, recently I uploaded a video where I called out my ex-narc on his abusive behavior, and I included a short clip of him screaming and cursing at my daughter. That video is entitled Narcissistic Rage Caught on Video, and the link is in the description box below for those who haven't seen it. Now, I also posted this same video on my Facebook page along with a description of what I had endured during my marriage to this individual. And of course, as expected, I heard from a few flying monkeys. Only 2 actually posted under their real names. The other weak little cowards hid behind fake profiles. And I heard things like, why is this clip so short? You don't show how it started. How do I know he wasn't provoked? I spent the majority of the relationship with my ex-narc having to constantly prove myself and explain myself to him. So I'm really not going to do that here. I simply don't have to. And to anyone who thinks there's any justifiable reason for a grown man to scream obscenities at a young woman like that, okay, you either grew up in an abusive environment and believe this kind of behavior is normal, or you're an abuser yourself, period. Now, I use the name Empress of Light because I like the name, but I'm not hiding behind that name. Anyone can feel free to check out my Facebook page under my full name, Lisa Bird Miller. I'm a real person and I have nothing to hide. So, when I first left my narc husband, I initially intended to do it quietly. I made no announcements on social media. In fact, I stayed off social media altogether. And I also settled for a very small amount of money in order to just be done with him and just get the divorce over with. I blocked him on Facebook. I got a new phone number, and my plan was just to go on with my life. Even though I knew I wanted to help others dealing with narcissistic abuse, and I did already plan to make this YouTube channel. My original plan, though, was to keep his identity private. So why didn't I keep it private? When my narc ex was served with divorce papers, he immediately began contacting my friends and family to smear me and spread lies about me. I just ignored that. I remained silent. I heard through the grapevine what he was saying and accusing me of. I ignored it. I knew I had recorded audio and video proof of his abuse, much more than I have shared publicly, but I kept it for myself as well because originally I started recording his rants and rages for myself, for my eyes and ears only. I did that so that when he was gaslighting me and telling me he didn't do or say something that he did do or say, I could go back and listen to it for myself. and know that I was not crazy. It was right. He actually did say these things. I also did it to remind myself of who he really was in case later on down the line I started to miss him. And, that later never happened. I exposed him because he did something so evil, so horrendous, and so despicable that there was no way I wasn't going to let everyone know, as well as the general public, and let everyone know what he did. This low-life, sorry excuse for a man literally destroyed my deceased father's ashes and urn. Yeah, let me just repeat that. This man literally destroyed my deceased father's ashes and urn. This was ruled upon by a judge. This is not a he said, she said. This is a proven fact. My ex-husband has copies of this, although he is very unlikely to share them. And he has the memorandum from the arbitration showing the evidence, but this guy is a liar. He's not going to show this to anybody. He's in contempt of court right now. Okay? So, and he has papers on that too. Now, the few individuals who stood up for him have never lived with this man or been in an intimate relationship with him. They have zero idea of who he really is. The new victim in his life, she has no idea of who he is either. Even with proof, there's always going to be some people who will still choose to stick their heads in the sand. So, not being believed and coming under attack, those are the kind of things a survivor can expect to encounter if they speak up. And personally, I find it really interesting that there are people who are more focused on the fact I called him out rather than on his behavior. I just spoke about this in a video I just did about Evan Rachel Wood calling out her abuser. A lot of this type of thinking is called cognitive dissonance, which happens when the brain cannot process two conflicting beliefs or perceptions. They have only seen good behavior from this person and can't really imagine that that same person can display bad behavior. And I will speak more on this and cognitive dissonance in an upcoming video. And also now the new victim, the new supply, they're not going to be able to allow themselves to even consider that this seemingly wonderful person is really just not who they pretend to be. They're living in a dream world, a fantasy. They're in the love bombing stage and they don't want to wake up. So, as far as calling out my ex on what he did, perhaps consider this. If I was out here publicly spreading lies about a man, don't you think I'd be worried about setting myself up for slander? Oh, you bet. Of course I would. But here's the deal. It's not called slander when it's factual. It's called speaking the unvarnished truth. Thank you for listening.